there is one thing that philosophers, religious figures, world leaders, and even common people of all times could agree on, it's the power of a compelling story. My name is Logan Brady, and I love communicating and storytelling. I want to invite you to join me in reading deeper into modern storytelling to find the ancient truth and guidance that lies beneath. We're live with the Scroll in the Story podcast interview. Here joining me today is Reese Powell. Reese, can I just call you Reese?
Yeah, sure, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Dean. Reese.
No, Reese.
Can I get you to give me a short introduction to yourself?
My name is Reese Powell. I'm the Dean of Libraries here at William Carey University, and I've been here about 17 years. And I've enjoyed working with students like yourself and who've come through here and highly motivated and smart and ambitious with big plans. It's a pleasure to facilitate y'all's work while you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for providing us this background today.
Sure.
I wish I could I try to mimic, I have a bookshelf at my house for my little personal background, but the idea would be to one day build a studio very similar to, I know we're both big fans of Pints with Aquinas.
Yeah.
His sort of very scholarly setup. So, all right. One of the reasons I wanted you to do my first interview is because I think we have some shared interest, but also specifically about your personal upbringing and your interest in literature, storytelling, your specific education, and your role. So can you give me a little bit of background on your upbringing, your faith, and how your faith is maybe not so much changed, but molded as you've grown older?
So when I was born, my dad was a football coach. My mom has always been an English teacher. But they are, to this day, very serious, faithful Christian people. My daddy became a pastor when I was a little boy, Southern Baptist Convention pastor. My mother's daddy was a pastor as well. And so I was raised for a little bit as a coach's son, and then for the rest of my life as a preacher's kid. And so we were certainly in church all the time, being the preacher's family. But I'll be honest, I think we would have been anyway. Faith was very important. It was a natural part of our lives. It was a natural part of conversation. The things I learned, I was obviously sometimes taught, many times explicitly, as almost kind of like, here's a lesson for you.
Yeah.
But I learned just as much observing. So the things of God, our relationship with Christ, faithfulness to the church, I witnessed them do and live. So it was important to them, and by the grace of God, it remained important to me. So that was really, I was raised in just a very faithful, and our extended family was faithful too. So I was just really immersed in people who were serious about their faith, serious about their relationship with Christ. It was the air we breathed. So I was very fortunate and blessed in that way. They also, I think, their background being teachers, ultimately, with career paths being what they can be when you're a young person, ultimately led me here. Like I said, almost 20 years ago, my late 20s, and I always wanted to be involved in higher education, not necessarily in the classroom. But and I think some of that also came from my parents, the fact that they were involved in education. Doing my best in school was important, but even more than that, education was important, not just my performance. And I just wanted to be a part of facilitating that work for others, whether it be faculty or students like yourself. I think it's, for whatever reason, the way God wired me, it's in my nature to prefer to be off stage and to facilitate.
Yeah.
And
I feel the same way most times.
This role as a library director is very much that way. So
Yep.
I find it interesting what everybody's working on. Like I said, faculty or student. It means something to me to be on the periphery, providing a place and resources for them to do it.
So the quote for today is, God's plan is like a beautiful tapestry, and the tragedy of being human is that we only get to see it from the back with all of the ragged threads and muddy colors. We only get a hint of the beauty that would be revealed if we could see the whole pattern on the other side, as God does. For a while, this was like appearing every couple of weeks in my like Instagram Reels feed, and people do different edits, or they would take the quote and put it over some stock footage or maybe footage of a family. And this is a very powerful and very intriguing quote to me. And I have a few questions for both of us to answer that I wanted to get in and discuss, starting with the first one. And obviously, with this being an interview, I'm more invested in what you have to say rather than my thoughts on this. Does this seem to reflect a mature or immature view of the Christian faith?
I think it's a mature view of the faith. I've thought about that quote. What season would that have been?
It was at the very end of the third season.
Very end of the third season. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
So it's kind of tucked away in one of the last episodes.
I watched all three. I've watched one or two of Born Again since it's come out, but I could not remember exactly where that quote was. I do think it's a mature view. It's similar to a passage in the New Testament when it talks about not being able to see fully. My maternal grandfather had a much more modern, similar quote. He used to tell us, life's like driving down the highway in the pitch black, and all we can see is what the headlights illuminate, and God sees, everything, beside you, above you, below you, in front of you, behind you.
You can barely see like the edges of that light.
Yeah.
You can start to see the shadows creep in, but you turn left or right and it's just pitch black.
And so I think it's mature. I think when I think about what it might mean, I think obviously it deals with, I think it's multifaceted. So you've got, our finite ability, God's infinite ability on many levels. There's the ability to just contextualize what's happening to us. Obviously it's talking about a difference of perspective, but there's more to that than just what we can see. There's a difference in perspective in terms of wisdom, and we're talking about His perfect wisdom versus our limited wisdom at times. Our limited ability to see possibilities, whether or not we can't even envision those possibilities, or whether or not they're not open to us because of, some sin in our life.
Yeah.
There's the fact that in some mysterious way, we have the ability to make decisions, but God's never surprised by what they are either. So that gets into a lot of deep mystery. I think one of the things I used to think about, like I heard my grandfather use that headlight thing for years, and I always used to think of that linearly. Always used to think of that linearly from a and usually about when I was thinking about how, what decisions to make, which probably spoke to what it was like maybe be a little bit younger, and I didn't know where I was headed and what I was going to be doing. And so I often just really only thought of it in that way, like decision making and things of that nature. As I've gotten older, maybe read a little bit more, been learned better, I think the difference in perspective speaks to even much more than just that, right? So God's outside of our space and time. He created our space and time. He's not bound by it. He holds the entire thing in his hand. That's really, we have no idea how to even we couldn't even calculate the difference in perspective that comes with that.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I've been talking to my mom about this a lot recently, and one of the things that often comes up when I try and answer this is, so often we use God's creation, God's rules, every fabric of our being and society, morally, ethically, physically, to try to explain or justify Him, but you're trying to explain a creator by what He created. And
right.
that, I mean, in both ways, number one, that does offer testimony to God's character.
It can be helpful.
Yeah, and it can be helpful, but when you get to a more, I guess, philosophical sense, that's when it can get a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, it can be helpful, but we also have to realize, I mean, we can't comprehend. I mean, he is outside of space and time. Space and time is all we can possibly know right now, this side of heaven. He's outside of it. What does that even mean? You know, the fact that he is intensely in this moment with us, but he's intensely got all the moments in the palm of his hand. So, and so when you think about that quote about that tapestry, what I think it's something about, we see the muddied colors and the frayed edges from the back, and maybe even more accurately, we can only even hone in on one part of that.
Yeah.
You know, the back of that tapestry, whereas he's seeing the entire beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And when we think about this, especially, another one of the reasons I wanted to have you on to discuss this is because of the importance of Daredevil's Catholicism to him. And I know you can elaborate some more on that, especially much better than me. When you even think about like Christ rising from the dead and ascending into heaven, and then giving us the instructions to begin to build the church on and continue on, this beautiful thing, this beautiful tapestry of the Lord's holy church throughout all time. I mean, we're, as humans and as Christians, we are responsible for a lot of those ragged threads and muddy colors. Like, we're trying to do the best we can, but we're not painting. If God's able to paint the Mona Lisa, we're drawing stick figures. You know?
Yeah, right, yeah.
So
to a large extent.